you're well aware of, that the employees of Volkswagen the majority of them have decided to organize and have chosen to be future members of United Auto Workers. And there's been a lot of outside corporate money come in to attack their right to organize. And Mike Elk within these times has done some great investigative journalism on that situation, and we're really pleased to have him here tonight. Mike is a Pittsburgh native, and like I said, he's a journalist within these times. His investigative work has been cited on the front page of New York Times and debated by Whoopi Goldberg and Barbara Walters on The View. And my mother relentlessly watches that. He's also been featured on Democracy Now! And in The Nation. He's a regular contributor to MSNBC. He's won a Sydney Award for his coverage on how corporations crafted legislation to exempt prison labor from U.S. minimum wage laws. So if you guys would all please give a big warm round of applause for Mike Elk and Sean Weaver.
Well, it's great to be here tonight, folks. It's been a great week here in Chattanooga. I've had a real good time. Got to see a lot of the Civil War monuments. Pretty incredible. You know, being from the North, I haven't really been to any Civil War battlefields before, so it was quite amazing. And the tough fights that went on here then, and how they've been echoed by some of the anti-union forces now and some of their rhetoric. I'm going to start off tonight on a bit of a personal note. A good friend of mine, Mark Haller, died on Saturday. I'm skipping his funeral tonight to be here. Mark was a union man. He was a locomotive factory worker at a General Electric locomotive factory in Erie, Pennsylvania. He died of a heart attack suddenly at the age of 54. He lived all of his life as a union man, and he fought hard, and he was proud of it. And when he died, the outpouring of support that I've seen over the last week from the people I knew that grew up around him that were involved in the union with him was tremendous. And in many ways it represents what a union is. The idea that we're no longer alone in this world and that we have to suffer what comes to us, but that we have a sense of dignity and a sense of an ability to move ourselves forward. You know, there's something else. I was getting ready tonight, and I was thinking about Mark last night. I was writing his obituary. And what struck me about Mark when he would talk about General Electric, as General Electric started to debate moving work away from the union factory in Erie, Pennsylvania to a new factory they set up in Fort Worth, Pennsylvania, was that Mark would always get up and he'd say to me, you know, these guys are stupid sons of bitches. Sorry my language, I cover the labor movement. You can't be around that without swearing. It's unfortunate. And, you know, he would point out to me, you know what's crazy? Half the time I'm at work, I'm sitting there, I'm not doing anything. And then they got me working overtime because they don't have the production schedule set up today. And today when I was touring the Volkswagen assembly line, I saw that same kind of mentality. Production line was down. Things were slowing up the process. The tour guide couldn't quite explain what was going on. And so often, you know, I've seen workers get blamed for what happens in these situations. When really we know, from the science of this stuff, from the economics of this stuff, that what workers get paid for most of these corporations is a fraction, especially when you're talking about a good like an automobile. Automobiles' price doesn't really go down or go up based on how much the worker's making it or making. That's just not the case. We know that. But you know, something else struck me today when I was touring the Volkswagen plant that struck me on a personal note. My own mother worked on a Volkswagen assembly line in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, which I'm sure some of the anti-union forces come down and told you a lot about. And I'm sure they've spread a lot of mistruth about that event, which we could get into a longer discussion if we do in the Q&A, but it wasn't the union's fault. I lived through it. I remember it. It was a painful experience for me. It was a painful experience for a lot of people. And part of what drew me to this story was the own pain that my mother went through when that plant closed. But what shocked me in covering this story is that when that plant closed in 1988 in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, my mother was a member of the United Auto Workers. My mother was making $14 an hour. The starting wage of Volkswagen today is $15 an hour, nearly 25 years later. Think about that for a second. Only $1 an hour higher. Think how much real wages have gone up in that time period. And for some folks working out of the plant, some of the temporary workers that are being brought in at 11, 12 bucks an hour, it's even worse. And now I know a lot of folks here say, well, 14, 15 bucks an hour is a lot for Chattanooga. And it may be. But whether or not these cars are made 30 some bucks an hour over in Germany, for 15 bucks an hour here, they're still getting sold for the same price. So I originally got drawn to this story sort of by happenstance. I'm a reporter, and I like to go to bars. It's part of the occupational hazards of being an investigative reporter. You got to spend a lot of time in bars. And a source called me up, a friend, I would say, in the union busting community. It's possible to have a friend in that community. And he handed me some documents that were pretty incredible about the fight that was going on down here. Volkswagen has claimed in public that they are neutral, that they are not going to oppose this election of the union. However, as the leaked documents I obtained from one of Grover Northwest political operatives, Matt Patterson, revealed, hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming into Chattanooga to tell folks how to vote in this union election. And think about the irony of this all. Typically, Republicans are saying unions interfere in the private business-making decisions of companies. Here you have Republicans in the form of Grover Norquist, who's one of the political masterminds of the right, and Senator Bob Corker, every day getting up in the press and various outlets and talking about how they don't want the union in here. Now think about the hypocrisy of this all. They're the only ones here that are really interfering in private business-making decisions. And what amazed me so much about it was why so much money was flooding in. Now, it's not exactly clear to me why so much or where the money is coming from. Volkswagen has claimed neutrality. Almost 4 months ago, a majority of workers at UAW presented cards saying they wanted to join a union. It's taken Volkswagen 4 months to even respond about how they're going to come up with a process. They have yet to respond publicly about how they're going to allow that to proceed. Now, if they're a neutral employer that supports the rights of workers, is it that difficult of a thing to do? All you do is you say, all right, if you got a majority of the cards, we recognize the union. But what's going on, like any other employer here, is a complex set of international negotiations. The UAW is allied with IG Metall in Germany. IG Metall has a lot of power. The Works Council has a lot of power. All 60 of the 61 Volkswagen facilities have works councils. And a work council, for those that aren't familiar, is a board half made up of management, half made up of labor that decides how a plant's run. And it allows a lot of input. And this goes back to what my friend Mark Haller was saying. I've interviewed a number of workers. Every year, the production at the plant is changing when you get a new model. You get a new thing. You got to move the cruise control because J.D. Power doesn't like where the cruise control is, and they say that it makes the car not something that customers like. Although I don't really get that. I've never used the cruise control once. But I digress. So every year, you're changing the product. And the way Volkswagen primarily gets feedback is they do a twice-a-year survey. Sometimes they go around and talk to folks. And I went out to the plant, and they do this big thing about, we're teams, and we got the different colored hats, for different positions in the plant, team leader, et cetera. And the CEO of the plant has a meeting on the floor with the managers in plain view of all the workers every day. And you see production goals posted on these electronic billboards throughout the plant. And you see testimonials from workers talking about how much they love it, working there on the plant. This whole idea that they are a team. But if they are a team, why is it taking Volkswagen 4 months to agree to it? Agree to a simple process of saying, all right, you got a majority of workers there. That's because there's a complex set of negotiations going on behind closed doors. Volkswagen isn't allowing this union in out of benevolence of their heart because they're pro-union. They're allowing the union in and not opposing it directly, or at least publicly, because they're held over the barrel by a German set of unions that are very powerful, and they can't oppose them. And it's not worth the cost of trying to oppose them in this situation. So what they're doing is negotiating with IG Metall. They're negotiating with the UAW over how all of this process is going to work and what Volkswagen is going to get out of it. With the primary negotiations going on with IG Metall in Germany, since they have a lot more on the bargaining table. And there's a new president of that union now, who just came in mid last month. So that's holding it up. But in the meanwhile, it's not entirely clear to me that Volkswagen isn't funding a behind-the-doors anti-union campaign here. I've already done 2 stories that have exposed financial connections between Volkswagen and the forces opposing the UAW here. The first one was this guy named Matt Patterson, whoever this union buster is that they sent in, that was so stupid that other union busters decided to publicly talk shit on how bad his union busting capabilities were in a story. I mean, no, folks, let's be honest. I'm sympathetic to union busters. If you're going to be a conservative political operative, you want to work on, campaigns. You want to work on foreign policy. Labor movement's dying. Who wants to be assigned to the labor beat? Just the dumbest of the dumbest. The boss has all the power in this country. It doesn't take much to beat workers if you can fire them without penalty, as so many can. And this is a situation where when the employer is not directly opposing, you have a much better chance of getting in. Statistics show that when the employer opposes, union wins only 46% of the time. And that's because 1 out of every 3 union campaigns, a worker gets fired. In 90% of union campaigns, there's a one-on-one meeting between a supervisor and a worker in which a worker feels quite intimidated when his boss starts asking him about how many days he's been absent from work. And, oh, by the way, how do you feel about that union? Whereas when the employer doesn't oppose, 78% of the time, the union wins. Now, that's a situation technically you're in here now. It's still up in the air if the UAW can win there. They haven't gotten across the finish line yet. Things are looking optimistic. The UAW feels optimistic. But Volkswagen, the typical tactic of union busters that they do all the time, and I've seen it in every campaign, is run out the clock. If folks are going to do something risky like organize a union, go down to a union hall after work, come to events like Byron is doing, speak out, that's a great deal of time. That's a great deal of time that they're not getting paid for. It's a great deal of risk. It's a great deal of stress. It's a great deal of making enemies, too. As many workers have told me, neighbors and friends have come up and complained to them about the situation. So what Volkswagen is doing by not agreeing is allowing a time window to open in which folks can be intimidated to change their votes. And now Volkswagen has been linked to 2 of these companies doing it. They've given $5,000 to this group called the Competitive Enterprise Institute, which Matt Patterson worked for, and he claimed over the summer he only had a budget of $4,000. Now I talked to Volkswagen, and Volkswagen told me that they weren't giving the money to the Competitive Enterprise Institute for his anti-UAW work. That was just a coincidence. They were going to a Rand Paul dinner, and maybe that's the truth. And then I found out that they're giving money to this group, giving a lot of money to this group called the Chattanooga Regional Manufacturers Association. And the Chattanooga Regional Manufacturers Association, one of the things they advertise to their members is a thing called union avoidance seminars. And there's this whole industry that many in the union industry know about called union avoidance seminars. And what they do is they train managers in how to counter unions before they even get out of the gate. And if you go on LinkedIn and you look at a lot of HR managers' resumes, a lot of them will have on their resumes that they attended places like General Electric's union avoidance seminars, because General Electric has the reputation of running the best union avoidance seminars in the country. And this is a whole industry. If you look at one of the people that's been the most outspoken, and in some ways in the past involved with the Chattanooga Regional Manufacturers Association, and still has a lot of friends there, Don Jackson, who used to be the president of manufacturing in Chattanooga at the facility for Volkswagen up until a year ago. Don Jackson and all the managers he hired come out of Toyota, they come out of Nissan, they come out of other southern transplants, where their entire career they have been trained in how to avoid unions and crush union drives before they get off the ground. And I've heard stories from many workers out there, anecdotal, that many of these managers, even though Volkswagen says publicly that they're not going to do a big thing, are sort of casually saying they're against the union. And certainly before there was a union drive, they were taking steps to avoid it. Before they stated public neutrality. Because that's just the playbook. That's the playbook they go by. So maybe Volkswagen is pumping this money. Who knows? We do know Grover Norquist is spending money here. And we do know, from what I hear from the anti-union forces, that all the anti-union forces in the country see Chattanooga as the biggest fight going on right now, as the Wisconsin of manufacturing. That's how important the union drive is at Volkswagen. It is a make or break moment for the UAW. If the UAW wins at Volkswagen, much like when the Union Army won in Chattanooga, it opens up the rest of the South to them. They realize this. Grover Norquist realizes this. Bob Corker realizes this. And they don't want that to happen, as Michael's fond of saying. The biggest threat they see is the threat of a good example. Say 2,000 folks out there get a union. Wages go up from 15 bucks an hour to 18 bucks an hour. Pretty soon, other places that are non-union in town are going to have to compete with that, have to raise their wages. Maybe what will happen is you got 2,000 folks at Volkswagen that are unionized, and you got a bunch of folks working in basically slave labor across the street at Amazon making 10, 11 bucks an hour, and they start becoming friends with the union guys across the street, and then they decide they want a union too. So they're scared. They're very scared. And they're willing to do anything to stop this. It's unclear who's doing it, and that's important. I'm not saying it's necessarily Volkswagen, but Volkswagen has been linked to several of the key players. And Volkswagen has not exactly been operating in good faith, to say the least. So it's not clear who's doing it, but it is clear why the general anti-union forces want it out. And so that's my presentation. And I want to open up to questions. I'm a reporter. I hate talking. I do it on television for a living, but I hate it. So I want to hear what folks have to say. Let's have a fun Q&A here. Let's talk. I want to hear about what's going on.